Hello and welcome to In Depth. I'm Tina Jha. Food is the most fundamental need for us human beings. Unfortunately, more than 820 million people worldwide go hungry every day. A new UN report says that 10.8% of the world's population does not have enough food to eat. That means 1 in every 9 people globally faces hunger on a daily basis. People facing chronic hunger do not have access to enough food to maintain healthy and productive lives. Further, nearly 2 billion people across the world do not have regular access to safe, nutritious and sufficient food. This fact underscores the immense challenge to achieving the zero hunger target of the Sustainable Development Goals by the year 2030. Today in In-Depth, we focus on the recent trends on hunger, food insecurity and malnutrition mentioned in the UN report, the reasons cited by analysts for the increase in global hunger, the challenges towards achieving the zero hunger target by 2030, and how India fares on the Global Hunger Index. According to the UN report titled State of Food Security and Nutrition in the World 2019, hunger is increasing in many countries where economic growth is lagging, particularly in the middle-income countries. And income inequality is rising in many of the countries where hunger is on the rise, making it even more difficult for the poor, vulnerable, or marginalized to cope with economic slowdowns as well as downturns. In this report, let's look at the key findings of the report and the urgent steps required to tackle this global problem. Over 821 million people suffer from hunger, food insecurity and malnutrition worldwide. According to the United Nations report, the State of Food Security and Nutrition in the World 2019, the number of people with not enough to eat has risen for the third year in a row. The rise in global hunger has come after a decade when real progress was made. Globally, about 1 in every 9 persons is suffering from hunger today.
The World Hunger Index, and there are different indicators of poverty. So one of that is the Global Hunger Index. This comes out around October or September every year. And along with that, there are other indices also come out. Now what happens is that the hunger index measures poverty, but that measures only in terms of those countries where there is acute shortage of food grains and stuff. It doesn't capture poverty adequately and well for countries which are better off, for instance for countries like India.
The State of Food Security and Nutrition in the World report is from the UN Food and Agriculture Organization, the International Fund for Agricultural Development, the UN Children's Fund, the World Food Programme and the World Health Organization. It shows the number of hungry people across the globe is back to where it was almost a decade ago. In the year 2018 alone, the number grew by 9 million from the previous year, mostly driven by factors like conflict and climate change. Hunger is on the rise in almost all African sub-regions, making Africa the region with the highest prevalence of undernourishment at almost 20%. In Asia, undernourishment affects 11% population. Western Asia shows a continuous increase since 2010, with more than 12% of its population undernourished today. Although Southern Asia saw great progress over the last 5 years at almost 15%, it still has the highest prevalence of undernourishment. In Latin America and the Caribbean, hunger is still below 7%, but is slowly increasing. Hunger is increasing in many countries where economic growth is lagging, particularly in middle-income countries and those that rely heavily on primary commodity trade.
In the index, it's very obvious that countries which have very poor agriculture, large population, and there is conflict. Somalia, Djibouti, Eritrea, Southern Sudan, these are countries where there is an ongoing conflict, where there is poor agriculture, pastoral, that means mostly largely shepherds and other animal rearing activities are there, they are the lowest. And that's where the United Nations and other countries are very active. But it's unless they improve agriculture, unless there's peace in those countries, this World Hunger Index will be very high in those countries, and it has been so for the last few years. So essentially, Darfur is another place in Africa. Africa is most affected by world hunger.
While hunger is widespread, overweight and obesity, which are related to malnutrition, is also on the rise in all regions. 338 million school-age children and adolescents are overweight, while 672 million are obese adults. Asia and Africa have 9 out of 10 of all stunted children. These regions have over 9 out of 10 of all wasted children worldwide, and is also home to nearly 3/4 of all overweight children across the world. The report says that since 2012, no progress has been made in reducing low birth weight. In 2015, 1 in 7 babies around the world were born with low birth weight. On food insecurity, the UN report notes that 17.2% of world's population, or 1.3 billion people, lacked regular access to nutritious and sufficient food. Even if they are not necessarily suffering from hunger, they are at greater risk of various forms of malnutrition and poor health.
Food security means two things. One, the nation's ability to grow enough food for itself, or the nation's ability to procure food, not only what is grown in the country, but being able to purchase the food from abroad. I think India has reached that stage. We have adequate food security. I believe there is 1 crore tons of wheat and rice in our godowns, even from last year's crop. There are immense number of programs where rice and wheat are given at 1 rupee a kilo all over the country. We have achieved food security. What is missing is higher level of nutrition, which will affect positively India's ranking in the World Hunger Index.
To safeguard food security and nutrition, the UN report calls for a structural transformation to include the poorest people in the world. For this, it suggests integrating food security and nutrition concerns into poverty reduction efforts using pro-poor and inclusive transformations. With inputs from Astha Kulshresht, Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Time for a short break on the program. When we return, we'll talk about how India fares on the Global Hunger Index. Do stay with us. Global Hunger Index reveals a distressing gap between the current rate of progress in the fight against hunger and undernutrition and the rate of progress needed to eliminate hunger and alleviate human suffering. Approximately 124 million people suffer acute hunger, a striking increase from 80 million 2 years ago. While the reality of hunger and undernutrition continues to have a massive impact on the next generation. In our next report, we discuss the global statistics on malnutrition.
The Global Hunger Index, or GHI, ranks countries based on 4 key indicators: undernourishment, child mortality, child wasting, and child stunting. Child wasting refers to the share of children under the age of 5 who have low weight for their height, reflecting acute undernutrition. Worldwide, the level of hunger and undernutrition falls into the serious category with a GHI score of 20.9. This is down from 29.2 in 2000. This improvement is based on reductions in each of the 4 indicators. India is ranked below many neighboring countries, including China at 25th spot, Nepal 72, Myanmar 68, Sri Lanka 67, and Bangladesh 86. Pakistan is at 106th position. Hunger varies enormously by region. The 2018 GHI scores of South Asia and Africa south of the Sahara at 30.5 and 29.4 respectively reflect serious levels of hunger. These scores stand in stark contrast to those of East and Southeast Asia, the Near East and North Africa, Latin America and the Caribbean, the Eastern Europe, and the Commonwealth of Independent States, where scores range from 7.3 to 13.2, indicating low or moderate hunger levels. The Central African Republic suffers from an extremely alarming level of hunger. 6 countries, Chad, Haiti, Madagascar, Sierra Leone, Yemen, and Zambia, suffer levels that are alarming. 45 out of 119 countries have serious levels of hunger. Haiti, Zimbabwe, and CAR have the highest rates of undernourishment, ranging between 45.8 and 61.8%. Stunting is highest in Timor-Leste, Eritrea, and Burundi, with at least half of the children suffering from stunting in each country. Wasting is most prevalent in Djibouti, India, and South Sudan at 16.7%, 21.0%, and 28.6% respectively. Finally, the highest under 5 mortality rates are in Somalia, 13.3%, Chad, 12.7%, and CAR at 12.4%. Still, there is a cause of optimism. GHI includes 27 countries with moderate levels of hunger and 40 countries with low levels of hunger.
Countries, for instance, like say war-affected countries, like say a country like say Afghanistan, there the immediate issue would be to provide food, to reach food to areas where there's no communication. In an area like South Sudan, for instance, where there's the issue is more than hunger, it is acute. There the entire population is getting wiped out because of the lack of access to food, simply because of war. So there you'll have to ensure that war gets cooled down. In a country like say, not in that sort of a condition, but say a country like say, affected by flood or a typhoon of a fantastic scale, there it will be a short-term provision. So, the strategies change across countries depending on the circumstances.
Malnutrition is majorly connected to forced migration and hunger, 2 challenges that affect some of the poorest and most conflict-ridden regions of the world. Globally, hunger afflicts an estimated 68.5 million displaced people, including 40.0 million internally displaced people, 25.4 million refugees, and 3.1 million asylum seekers. For these people, hunger is both a cause and a consequence of migration.
See, one of the things with malnutrition is it straightaway affects children and mothers. If mothers are not able to properly nurse their children, the children below the age of 5, they don't grow up to the normal physical attributes, and there is also a lot of child mortality. Malnutrition, poor nutrition, hunger is the cause of mortality among children. So that's how hunger affects poorer sections, or in countries where there is vast amount of agriculture, disruption, war, conflict, unstable conditions. So that's how hunger affects people. You have children who are neither dead nor alive. They are in very poor condition. We have seen immense amount of images on television and in magazines of how hunger affects people.
In the countries included in the GHI, the share of population that is undernourished stands at 12.3% as of 2015-2017, down from 17.6% in 1999-2001. Of children under 5, 27.9% are stunted based on data from 2013-2017, down from 37.1% in 1998-2002, and 9.3% are wasted, down slightly from 9.7% in 1998-2002. Finally, the under 5 mortality rate was 4.2% as of 2016, down from 8.1% in 2000. Meanwhile, the government across the globe needs to provide support for food insecure, displaced people in 4 main areas: recognizing and addressing hunger and displacement as political problems, developing holistic approaches to protracted displacement settings, providing support to food insecure displaced people in their regions of origin, and recognizing that the resilience of displaced people is never entirely absent and should be the basis for providing support. With inputs from Astha Kulshresht, Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
With increasing population, the number of people with not enough to eat is rising worldwide. The situation is particularly grim in India, where more than 195 million people go hungry every day. India is also home to over 1/3 of the world's malnourished children. However, the government is aiming to achieve zero hunger target by 2022.
Hunger and malnutrition are among the biggest challenges facing the world. The number of people who are going hungry is on the rise worldwide. A large number of them are children who do not get enough nutrients for physical and mental growth. India also has the largest number of malnourished children in the world. Over 1/3 of the world's malnourished children live in India. 21% children under the age of 5 years are underweight. 38.4% kids under 5 are stunted. 4 out of 10 children in India suffer from chronic undernutrition or stunting. Almost 195.9 million people go hungry every day, according to the United Nations 2018 report on the state of food security and nutrition in the world. Malnutrition is a socio-economic issue in India, with the poor more at risk. Also, it is more prevalent in rural areas. The situation is extremely critical because the effects of malnourishment are irreversible if they occur at a young age.
You see, one of the ways, you measure hunger by the health of the child, malnutrition. Essentially, it's malnutrition in adults and children. And therefore, that's the way they decide whether the country suffers from this situation. And India, as I just said, the children especially, and those who are unemployed in very remote areas, they suffer from lack of adequate nutrition. Maybe lack of food, the types of food, the proteins and other things. But we do suffer, and the country and various states have to address this issue.
According to the Global Hunger Index 2018, India stands at 103rd place among 119 countries. Even though India produces enough food to feed its population, the country is home to 25% of the world's hungry population. The situation calls for a holistic approach to food security to fulfill the United Nations Zero Hunger Challenge that seeks zero stunted children less than 2 years, 100% access to adequate food all year round, sustainable food systems, 100% increase in smallholder productivity and income, and zero loss or waste of food. The government is working to curb hunger and malnutrition. Passed in 2013, the National Food Security Act covers 75% rural population and 50% urban population. It offers uniform entitlement of 5 kg of cereals per person per month at highly subsidized prices. The scheme also provides nutritional support to women and children and provides maternity benefits as well. In addition, the Antyodaya Anna Yojana provides highly subsidized food to millions of the poorest of the poor families, with every BPL family entitled to 35 kilos per household per month. The public distribution system also aims at ensuring food security by providing food and non-food items to the poor at subsidized rates.
We have got the National Food Security Act 2013. It's under it, anybody has the right to go to court. Technically, you might say who would be able to go to court, but then it's just not the person. There are organizations which can go to court, and India has got a huge public distribution system. In terms of availability of food, there's just no problem. We have got much. We produce, just even taking 2017-18 figures, we produce 280 million tons of just of cereals. That's food, wheat, rice, and the basic stuff. If you add vegetables, that's another 300 million tons. So we don't have problems in terms of the availability. The problem is to be able to distribute it adequately, and that is where the efficiency of the public distribution system comes into place.
Under the midday meal scheme, lakhs of children are served freshly cooked meals in government and government-aided schools.
There is hunger in India, largely in the form of malnutrition. Malnutrition affects migrant workers, unemployed workers, agrarian sector, and their children are very badly affected. Government has a host of programs, especially the midday meal program, where crores of children are being given at least one nutritious meal when they go to school. But the children have to attend school to get that. So that's one of the issues, whether only school-going children will get nutrition or those children who are not able to go to an organized school. But the issues are being tackled in India. It would be very unfair to the state governments and the central government to say that they have not been tackled. I don't believe there is anywhere in the world such a large school program of midday meals, nutrition needs being met in school as in India. We have a long way to go, especially children, infants, others who don't come to school or are too young to come to school. That has to be addressed, and it is being addressed. All of these problems will go away if government ensures there is a higher level of hygiene, there is more employment, and there is more access to cheaper food.
Through the National Nutrition Strategy of 2017, the government has envisioned a malnutrition-free India by the year 2022. With inputs from Astha Kulshresht, Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
The number of undernourished people has come down by almost half in the past 20 years, owing to rapid economic growth and increased agricultural productivity. However, extreme hunger and malnutrition still remains a huge barrier to development. As of 2017, 821 million people were chronically undernourished, while more than 90 million children under the age of 5 are dangerously underweight. To fight the growing incidence of hunger, the United Nations has made zero hunger as its second sustainable development goal, with the aim to end all forms of hunger and malnutrition by the year 2030. In our next report, we tell you what SDG 2 entails, what are the challenges as we move towards zero hunger, and what we as a society can do to fight global hunger.
"2030 is the year that the world has set as its target to achieve certain goals in the path leading to sustainable development. Of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals put forth by the United Nations, the second one deals with zero hunger. SDG 2 requires comprehensive efforts to ensure that every man, woman and child enjoy their right to adequate food, women are empowered, and priority is given to family farming. This is proposed to be done through a series of pathways for action which include leaving no one behind, human rights, coherent policies and coordinated action at national, regional and global level, inclusive multi-stakeholder stewardship at all levels, transformational implementation, investment in sustainable production and consumption including sustainable food and nutrition systems, women as mothers, farmers and entrepreneurs, reshaping agriculture and food systems in the face of climate change.
The MDPI actually shows that between the year 2003 and 2016, India has been the best country in the world in terms of being able to translate, reduce the element of poverty and malnutrition particularly, especially poverty. So what it has done is essentially been able to do two things. A, provide large scale amount of food, but not just food. It measures poverty in different ways. Its poverty is defined in terms of access to sanitation, access to healthcare, access to communication, access to education. Poverty is, there are lots of elements of poverty, and in that way, and because that gives a much better idea of where is poverty. So in that terms, India has been the best country in the world, and that is a remarkable phenomenon because remember, India is the second largest country in terms of population. And if you link it along with the fact that this has got to do with the Sustainable Development Goal, which the UN has set for 2030, and all of these goals are related to at least one of the SDGs. There are all the SDG goals, each one are related to one or the other of these deprivation. So that means India is on the right course.
The Zero Hunger Challenge was launched by then UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon in 2012. Since its launch, ZHC has inspired action at country level and contributed to ensuring that food and nutrition security and sustainable agriculture have remained high on the global development agenda.
With world hunger reaching dizzying heights, every day over 800 million people struggle to get any food at all and risk starvation. The Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations helps countries to fight hunger, with zero hunger being its #1 mission. It does so with the help of several goals. Food security guarantees access to healthy food for everyone every day. Food grown on earth is enough to feed every last person on the planet, but it is down to governments, organizations, and individuals to distribute this food fairly, ensuring that no one goes empty stomach. Good nutrition will help make sure that people get all the nutrients they need to live well and encourage responsible, environment-friendly eating habits. Sustainable agriculture promotes the use of fields, forests, oceans, and all natural resources essential for food production without damaging the planet. Poverty is often the direct cause of malnutrition because when people can't afford healthy food or food in general, they tend to get ill more easily. So what can you and I do to tackle global hunger? Governments, private sector companies, and ordinary people need to come together and work towards a world that does not know hunger. Governments and political leaders have a key role in the fight against poverty and hunger. Governments need to monitor the market so that prices are fair for all farmers, big and small. They need to keep large corporations in check so that they respect and protect the rights of local people. Governments must also promote healthy eating, invest more in research, and focus on developing rural areas. Around 90% of farms in the world are family-owned, producing food not only for the family but also for the rural community they live in. These farms can play a huge role in Mission Zero Hunger by coming together as cooperatives, thereby improving their access to resources and maximizing their profits. They can also adapt to climate change and develop common strategies for sustainable cultivation. These small farmers also include communities that live off forestry, fishery, and pastoralism. The fight against hunger needs innovation with the support of the private sector. This includes companies that work in agriculture and services related to it, companies in the financial sector that can give poorer farming families access to funds, and multinational corporations that can use large areas of land responsibly, making sure that local people are not pushed away from their homes, farms, and jobs. A quarter of the food lost or wasted each day globally is enough to feed all the hungry people in the world. So ensure that you buy and eat only what is necessary, say no to plastic packaging, and eat leftovers. Droughts are becoming more and more common even in countries where there used to be plenty of water. So it is important to save water in whatever way we can, including small everyday measures like fixing leaks, using rain or grey water to water plants, using a bucket to bathe, and turning off the tap while brushing your teeth. And lastly, buy local. When you shop from local farmers, you end up supporting local economic growth, and the journey between people and produce is shorter. This in turn leads to less emissions, less pollution, and an overall healthier world. With inputs from Astha Kulshresht, Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And that's all we have for you in today's edition of In Depth. We'll be back same time tomorrow with an analysis on a different subject. You can also watch our program online on YouTube and Twitter on the link given below. You can send your feedback and suggestions about our program as well. Take care and see you again tomorrow.